In the writ of the New Testament, we find two Greek words, both translated judgment, which I talk about in my 2 video series, Don't Judge Me. And these 2 words have 2 different contexts, and they must be distinguished. And the way the Devar literal translation has distinguished between these as you are reading the Bible is simply by italicizing the ENT at the end of the word judgment, which refers to the krisis. And the easy way to understand what krisis is to simply call it the crisis. So when one is reading the DLT Bible translation and you come across the word judgment and you see the ENT italicized, it is referring to crisis. It is the punishment and the measures taken by which the one who is being judged shall be put to right. And of course, the largest context of the judgment, krisis, is the day of judgment. The affliction, time of out-justifying, which I talk about in my video called Out-Justify. However, prior to those measures being taken, that is the crisis measures, is the context of krima, judgment, where the Devar simply leaves it alone. It does not italicize the ENT. And what this simply is the sentence of a judge inflicting judgment. So basically, this is how we can distinguish between the context of crisis and krima. The krima is the sentence pronounced by a judge, and the crisis are the measures taken to put back right what was wrong, according to God's righteous judgment, which the context of his righteous judgment is his righteous crisis, which according to Luke chapter 12, verses 47 and 48, involves either many beatings or few beatings, suffering and affliction. And krisis occurs 48 times in the New Testament, where krima 28 times. The subject of this video deals with krisis, where out of all of the 48 occurrences in the New Testament, we find only 2 in the plural and only in the book of Revelation. Now, before we get into the discrepancy regarding these 2 plural occurrences of krisis found only in the book of Revelation, let me say that the word revelation, as chosen by most Bible translators, is a poor rendering of the Greek word apocalypsis, where of course the word apocalypse comes from, erroneously translated revelation, where it should be translated unveiling. Understand that a revealing of something is different from an unveiling of something. And when we read of things being revealed in the New Testament, this is contained within a different word family than apocalypsis, which understanding the difference between revealings and unveilings is relevant to the day of judgment, because things are going to be revealed to some, but not all. And the unveiling of things that will become known to all will be over a period of time in the testifying time, Hebrews 1:8. So to translate apocalypsis as revelation causes more problems in the thinking concerning the day of judgment, the day of crisis, and the unveiling of things. The unveiling of Jesus Christ, the unveiling of the sons of God, where the Greek preposition apo means away from the surface, and the verb kalypto means to veil. So apocalypsis is literally an away from veiling, which means to begin to make visible by removing a veil. Not a revealing, but an unveiling. So apocalypsis should be translated unveiling, not revelation, because we have other words in the Greek that define things that are revealed, as seen in the verb phino, which is derived from the noun phos, such as phosphorus, a light, where the verb phino describes the act of bringing forth into the light, shedding light upon something, where of course the adjective phaneros describes something that has been made apparent due to the light being brought upon it. It describes something manifest, which are different from things unveiled, where apocalypsis occurs 19 total times in the New Testament, and only 2 are found in the plural, unveilings, where all of the rest are in the singular, unveiling, where the context is the unveiling singular of Jesus Christ. And every eye will not see him until the finishing, where his unveiling is not an all-at-once revealing, it is a process which will unfold in the day of judgment, singular. Understand that the Lord will only be revealed to those who behold his glory. What Peter writes in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 4 is at the inauguration of the judgment. And when the arch-herdsman is revealed, you will fetch the unfadable crown of glory. In Colossians 3:4 we read, when, as it were, Christ your life will be revealed, then you also will be revealed together with him in glory. But again, those who will be wholly loosened away into the judgment will not perceive his glory. We read, but according to your hardness and the unco-thinking heart, you store up wrath for yourselves in the day of wrath and unveiling of the righteous judgment of God. You see, the unveiling of the crisis. So we have to distinguish between things that are revealed and things that are unveiled, according to the righteous judgment. So the title of this epistle, being Revelation, is already erroneous, creating sickness in the minds of those who are untried in the word of righteousness, not able to perceive a pattern of healthy words. And we see that apocalypsis, translated revelation, is only one time occurring in the book of the unveiling, mistranslated revelation. All of the rest of the other occurrences occur in all of the other epistles. And it's quite astonishing to me that the unveiling of Jesus Christ is read of in verses such as 1 Corinthians 1:7, Galatians chapter 1 verse 12, 2 Thessalonians chapter 1 verses 7 and 8, 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 7 and 13, and 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 13. However, the go-to epistle for those attempting to understand events that will unfold in the unveiling of Jesus Christ of the last days is the book of Revelation, which has no light to shed concerning the unveiling of the mysteries, Romans 16:25, according to the spirit of wisdom and of unveiling of his own knowledge, Ephesians 1:17, but only discrepancies and diversions, incongruous to all the rest of the writings. But what you will find when you start understanding the rest of the writings as one who segregates the book of Revelation away from them, stop trying to reconcile all the writings with this one book, and begin to understand all the writings in contrast to this one book, an amazing thing happens. A true revealing of light comes upon you, and you start seeing that the Word of God is indeed perfect. Where this one epistle, which causes much hyper-speculation, brings confusion, when you nullify it away from all of the rest of the prophecy in the Old and New Testaments, you start seeing harmony. You find that many characteristics in this one book do not jive, they do not harmonize with all of the writ of prophecy. Concerning the many parables and the many doctrines in relationship to the righteous judgment of God, the day of crisis, not judgments, but judgment, crisis of God. And note the righteous judgment, the righteous crisis in the singular of God, which will be unveiled, apocalypsis. The veil will begin to be removed, not to shine as a revealing, but away from veiling, for those who will perceive his glory where others will not, in accord with the same unveiling of the sons of God, Romans 8:19. And actually this is the only occurrence of this Greek word dikaiokrasia, from dikaios, meaning righteous, and krisis, judgment, which this word here is parsed in the singular number, as it's contained in the same word family of krisis, which of course you can confirm in any concordance. And because it's contained within the word family of krisis, we see here that the DLT italicizes it as belonging to krisis, not krima, where also we see apocalypsis occurs concerning this day, the day of wrath, supposedly the context of the book of the unveiling, of which I stated all 48 occurrences occur in the singular number, including this variation, righteous judgment. However, this is not what we see in the unveiling, chapter 16, verse 7, where it states, And I heard from the altar saying, Yes, Lord, the God, the all-holder, where the identity of all-holder here presents yet another problem, which is for another video. But the point being here is that we see it states, true and righteous are your judgments, krisis. However, here, unlike any of the other occurrences, it is parsed in the plural tense. Where again, in Unveiling 19:2, it's in the plural again in accord with the righteous judgments, where Paul's record in the same context is in the singular. Now let me also point out that there are more than 2 occurrences of krisis in the book of Revelation. There are actually 4, where 2 here are in the plural, but the other 2 in the singular. The Unveiling chapter 18 verse 10 and, as seen here in Unveiling chapter 14 verse 7, where both have to do with the hour of his judgment. And although someone may say, well, this is silly, this is trivial, well, no. We have to ask, why is this? Why are all 48 occurrences of apocalypsis found in the singular except these 2 verses? Why the inconsistency? Is there a good justifiable reason? The answer is no. So what's going on here? Well, honestly, I think it's a matter of just poor grammatical choice of words in behalf of the writer, the compiler of the book of Revelation, in distinguishing from krima and krisis, where Paul used krima twice in the plural and only in the book of Romans, which is not the same context of his righteous judgment or krisis, but again the sentence of a judge inflicting judgment, krima, which has its context in the plural according to his unoutraceable judgments and also through judgments of overconsiderations, not the measures taken by which the judged one shall be put to right based on the righteous judgment of God, which refers to the singular day of judgment. And when you search the word judgments plural, you find these 4 verses here where 2 are in Romans and 2 in the Unveiling. But we are not comparing apples to apples because in Romans it is the krima and in Unveiling it is the krisis. So could it be that the compilers of this book called the Unveiling, which I will show you is not John the Beloved, could it be just more borrowings and twistings from the Hebrew writings? Well, this is exactly what it is. This epistle did not have its origin in the Hellenic language, the Greek, but the Hebrew, unlike all the rest of the New Testament writings which had their origin in the Hellenic, the writing characters of the Greek language. And there are many evidences showing that this epistle or these writings called the Revelation had their origin in the Hebrew, which were later adjusted and rewritten and added to in order to adapt and Christianize it into being something that it wasn't originally intended for, of which its original came out of Gnosticism or Jewish mysticism, with many hundreds upon hundreds of borrowings from Old Testament writings. And in the Hebrew texts, we see the word judgments in the plural many, many times, unlike the Greek texts, where we don't see it in the plural at all. Of course, except these 2 verses that are borrowing from the Old Testament. And the same thing is seen with the word heavens in the Hebrew texts, where the word heaven in the singular is never found out of all of the occurrences in the Old Testament. It's always in the plural. Where in the Greek text, erroneous identifies heaven in the singular and plural, where we also find the adjective eporanios with the added epi prefix, also pointing to things in the singular and plural, unlike the Old Testament writings, where all 456 occurrences of heavens in the Hebrew texts are in the plural. And what we see in relationship to judgments, plural, that is only found in the book of Revelation, is due to the borrowings from the Old Testament, where the other writings of the New Testament were solely God-spirited as being penned in the Hellenic language, not the Hebrew, where again, krisis does not occur in the plural. And in the Unveiling chapter 16, verse 7, this is a quote from the Psalms. Psalms 19:10 concerning the judgments, plural, of Yahweh are truth. However, in John 8:16, John did not use the plural, but the singular. When we come to the New Covenant writ that was penned in the Hellenic writing characters, judgment, krisis, is always in the singular. And if the book of Revelation was supposedly penned by the same John, who penned the 4 epistles of John, what many believe to be around 90 AD, why would he have used the singular krisis in John 8:16, written earlier? Where, as a matter of fact, John used the word judgment in the singular 13 times in all 4 of his epistles, where 12 are krisis and 1 krima, but all in the singular. So we're to assume that in the book of the unveiling, John, the same John, used krisis in the plural? So what I strongly believe this is a result of, this plural use here, only in the book of Revelation, is what is called interpolation, which I talk about in my video, I, Jesus, Send My Angel, at around the 13-minute mark, where in that video more interpolation evidence is found. And how I discovered this discrepancy between the singular and plural use of krisis was my further investigating into this term here in the Unveiling, chapter 16, verse 7, which is all-holder, where we have even more discrepancies and problems to deal with, which will make for another video. But when I was taking notes, this plural occurrence of judgments kept popping out at me, because I remembered the verse in John chapter 5, verse 30, where Jesus states, the judgment, which is krisis here in the singular, is righteous, which concerns the same righteous judgment, singular, in Romans chapter 2, verse 5. Where again we see the singular judgment that is true in John 8:16, where we're supposed to believe that in the Unveiling 19:2, the same John used the plural judgments are true. But the Greek here was expressed in the singular judgment, when all will be judged, unitedly, as a singular whole, whether favorably or unfavorably. But the point being here is that what this demonstrates is inconsistency, due to more borrowing and twisting. And truly, the devil is in the details. And regarding these allusions and these borrowings from Old Testament writings in the book of Revelation, they are excessive. And when they later interpolated in an attempt to Christianize the documents, they did not do a very good job. This becomes more evident when one grows in knowledge and becomes very familiar with the word. And those who do not pay attention to such details cannot see this epistle for what it is, a method of the error belonging to Jewish original writings, mystic writings, Gnostic writings, the myths that both Paul and Peter spoke about. And in relationship to this document of the Revelation, many words were inserted and added from its original, like Jesus, Jesus Christ, Lamb, which I also talk about in my video, Another Jesus, showing more of the same discrepancies, according to gender assignments of Greek words, where after these documents were interpolated, they were represented in the cunningness of the method of the error, Ephesians 4:14, which, as I stated briefly, more of these spurious matters are seen in the word translated all-holder or almighty, where Paul uses the word once, and then the other 10 are found in the book of the Unveiling. And the relationship to the identity of the all-holder and God's righteous judgment are relevant. And to understand the light that I have brought to you in this video will go hand in hand with yet another video where we'll discuss this all-holder, as seen in Unveiling 16:7, where we read, "And I heard from the altar saying, Yes, Lord God, the all-holder, true and righteous are your judgments," that we can establish the identity of this one, also termed the Alpha and the Omega, the all-holder, of which the book of Revelation also distorts. So please stay tuned, and thank you for watching.